Since 2003, this is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
The Sports Source is presented by Junk Be Gone, Pipe Wrench, and the Garza Law Firm.
The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Junk Be Gone studios for today's edition of the Sports Source. Appreciate you being here. It is a busy Sunday. We've got Mark Pantratz coming in. We're going to talk a little number one ranked Tennessee basketball team. We assume they'll be number one. We will talk with Ryan Callahan about a signing day wrap, see how the Volunteers did on signing day, and if they're catching up to their SEC rivals off the field. They've kind of caught a lot of them on the field, but are they catching up in the talent roster area? And then there's that other thing, the playoff. That's right. We'll be talking about, we'll give you bracket projections right off the top today. We'll talk about all of yesterday's action. And then later, once the brackets are revealed, and I know you're going to flip away and watch them, that's fine. We will have them right here. We'll be watching as well. So if you want to stick with us, we'll give them to you 0.5 seconds after ESPN reveals them. But if you want to go over there, fine. Come on back over here. Reese Davis, that Alabama grad, he's not going to give you the Tennessee perspective that we will. We'll break it all down right here. So we know it's going to kind of be a fly by the seat of your pants type show. I'll warn you ahead of time, it's going to be kind of loosey-goosey. Let's just get right into it. First segment brought to you by my friends at Junk Be Gone. Is your attic overflowing with stuff you no longer use or need? What about your garage like mine? Oh, man, it is filled with boxes from side to side and bottom to top. Wherever the clutter is in your home, unclutter it. Call Junk Be Gone. They can either send a team out there and do the heavy lifting themselves, or they just let you rent a 15-yard driveway dumpster, keep it out there all week, fill it up as you go. Call them, they take that thing away. JunkBeGone.biz. Businesses use them, homes use them, I use them. Junk Be Gone. Okay, let's welcome in the first wave of panelists today. We have right there Chuck Cavaleris, Josh Ward right here, Tyler Ivins right here, both these guys on the Sports Animal. And right there we have Bob Hodge. Bob and Chuck, these guys have been with me since 2003 when we first launched this show, and congratulations, we finished our 22nd regular season of UT football.
Wow, that's amazing.
Congratulations, guys. Nuts. Who would have thought that in 2003?
I was just a child.
Yeah. All right, regular season's complete. Aside from the Army-Navy game, the committee has all the info they need to set their bracket. Let's start there. Here's what the bracket looked like as of Tuesday. This was what they're going to be building from. And you see that last projection had Ohio State 8, Tennessee 9. Tennessee's actually ranked higher, but due to teams getting those byes ahead of them, those teams that aren't ranked more highly, but they did win their conference, Tennessee pushed down to a 9, Ohio State to an 8. We did an emergency broadcast on our YouTube channel the other night. Jimmy Himes, Bob Hodge joined me. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're starting to put more and more stuff there. We're launching in January, but if you subscribe to us, you'll know when we put something up. We talked about Tennessee and Ohio State and compared the resumes, and for as much crying as there's been, it's really not close. Most national people say it's not even close, so it's not just, you hate the Vols. No, it's just resume-wise, Ohio State has better wins than Tennessee does. All right, so let's look at the impact title games, the conference championship games that had some sort of role in all of this, what we're going to see later this afternoon. Mountain West Conference, Boise State took care of business, so they are in. Big Ten Conference last night. Hard to see them dropping Penn State very far when Penn State went and played an extra game and stayed within a touchdown of the number one team in the country. We'll see. Maybe they drop them, but I don't know how much they're going to punish them. This is a committee, mind you, that has said we don't want to punish teams that lose their conference championship games. Big 12 Conference, Arizona State's one of the hottest teams in the country. Man, they put it to Iowa State. SEC, Georgia gets their quarterback hurt, get their punter hurt, get some other guys hurt, and still come back and take care of Texas. I don't think there's any question. Georgia's been the best team in the league, and even the Georgia Tech game made me wonder about it, but they are the kings of the conference again, winning in overtime. Again, hard to see Texas falling. Their resume isn't as good as Tennessee's, to be honest with you. They don't have as good a win as Tennessee does. They don't have a bad loss like Arkansas, but still losing overtime by 3. I don't think they'll drop them too far. Atlantic Coast Conference, Clemson upsets SMU. might have stolen a bid from someone, and that someone could be Alabama. We'll discuss that. Let's take a look at Heather Denich's projections. Now, Tyler, you said this. I haven't been tracking it. Everybody runs to her. She's been doing pretty good with these projections.
Solid.
Okay,
it's almost as if she's being tipped off by somebody in that room.
It's almost like ESPN and the College Football Playoff Committee are hand in hand.
What do you know?
There you go. So she's got Oregon number 1, Georgia number 2. Not a surprise there. Penn State number 3 didn't drop. She's got them staying exactly where they were. Now, there's precedent for that. They did it with TCU a few years ago, but that was an unbeaten TCU team. Right. I'm surprised that they didn't drop at all in her projection. Texas drops from a 2 to a 4 in overtime by losing more closely than Penn State. Anyway, she's got Penn State 3, Texas 4, Notre Dame 5, and then Ohio State, Tennessee stay right where they are. Indiana following them, Boise State, SMU in. Alabama's ranked there. But when you throw in the teams that aren't ranked there, let's take a look at some bracket projections. And I'll show these to the guys. You can pass these out. If we've got the bracket projections next full screen. There we go. What you got there, Kyle Bonagura of ESPN. You've got Mark Schleybaugh of ESPN, and you've got Heather Dinich. And let's start with Dinich since that's where we were. Alabama doesn't make her field. So Alabama not in the field for her, but you can see where all three of these people have Tennessee. One has number 9 Tennessee at number 8 Penn State. The other two have number 9 Tennessee still going to number 8 Ohio State. And I'm going to spin around our big board here and let you take a look. There we go. All right, we can come to this now. All right, we got the big board here. This is how Dinich has them ranked. The check mark means you won your conference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alabama would be out. Arizona State in. Clemson jumps in and takes the slot. But in terms of they're automatically in.
Sure.
If you've got a debate, Miami was already behind Alabama, so they're dead. But we put them on here because they were ranked right ahead of Clemson, so they're there. Alabama and SMU seems to be the debate. I'll let you guys start there. Alabama has 3 wins against top 25 teams. SMU has none. At the same time, you said you're not going to punish teams for playing an extra game. SMU would have been in if they didn't play last night. They barely lost. If you knock them out, what are you saying about the future of conference championship games? So, gentlemen, whoever wants it can take it. Alabama or SMU?
I'm going to go with SMU. And the reason is for what you just said. If you're not going to punish, then don't punish, and SMU makes it. Now, if Alabama ends up getting in instead of SMU, and you go to the resume and you say, look at the top 25 wins, et cetera, okay, that's kind of understandable. And then next year, nobody will want to play in their conference championship game. Tennessee goes to Vanderbilt with a chance to go to the SEC championship game, but they're already in.
Yeah.
Hey, Nico, he's got something.
Yeah.
We'll play somebody else. So I think for integrity, you need to put in SMU.
Yeah. They kind of showed their hand last week. At least I believe Ward Manuel did. You've already mentioned it. We're not going to punish you for playing in a conference championship game. Well, then there's not going to be a lot of suspense. SMU is going to get in over Alabama this week. That will be the bid stealer. SMU essentially last week asked out loud, if my entire team gets COVID, if we go down, what are you going to do? Punish us? Because we need to know how this plays out. You already brought it up and kind of took the point with the setup. If you put Bama in over SMU, this isn't just what means for today, but it's going to send a ripple effect for the next 2, 3, 4 years of the college football playoff.
Sorry for taking the point with the setup, gentlemen.
Yeah, if the committee wanted Bama in, they should have ranked Bama ahead of SMU before the conference title game. Having SMU ranked where Mustangs were ahead of Alabama makes it difficult, I think, to knock SMU out for the close loss. If they'd been blown out, I think that would have changed the conversation.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
It came down to a kick as time expired for Clemson to win the game. So I think the resume of Alabama is more impressive than SMU. I think knocking SMU out based on Saturday's result would be really difficult to do for the committee. So I'm confident SMU will be.
And John, it's like we were texting last night. If SMU, when they're down 24-7 at half, if they lay an egg in the second half and they just get blown out, I think they lose their argument. But otherwise, you're going from like a first round bye in the projections before that conference championship game to the first team out. And that's just a huge drop off. I think that the committee's going to look at the overall record, and that's what they're going to go with. I really do.
But
Go ahead.
But let's say they had laid an egg. Okay, Alabama laid an egg against a pretty mediocre Oklahoma team.
We need to point that out. They lost to 2 500 teams in Vandy and Oklahoma.
So just because you're playing an extra game and said egg is laid, that means we will punish you for that.
Exactly. I don't see. I think you're right. I think they would have probably punched them out if they'd lost 45-7.
Right.
I don't know that that's fair though. Why is that? Oh well, what point is the scoring margin where it's like now you can do it? 17? No, 18. 18. Now they're out. To me, it's just you either punish people for losing a championship game or you don't. Even if you lose 100-0, well, we wouldn't have been there. Alabama didn't make their conference championship. Right. Why are we getting punished? The problem is the system.
Yes.
And it's a goofball system. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Let's go back over here to the team board. All right. I think we all agree Oregon 1, Georgia 2. Penn State doesn't move. Do we agree with Heather Dinich on that one?
I don't really. I'm not sure I do.
I think they'll drop one.
They
or something,
but I feel like if you're going to go based on what we've known the committee to do, even with that 13th game, dropping them a rank, still they host. So I feel like you need to kind of stay with what we know.
I don't understand why Texas played closer than Penn State. Now they played a lesser team,
right?
But actually they were upset. So this is a one version. You played a number 5, who you'd already second time you'd lost to them. I understand that Penn State does have a win over a top 25 team, 2 of 1, Illinois, whereas Texas does not. Yeah. But do we agree though that these, in some order, this is your top 5?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
nobody should
and
jump.
I'd keep an eye on Notre Dame. I think they like the eye test. The committee likes the eye test.
They need to stay in the top 5.
See, I think Notre Dame could jump 1 or 2.
I do too. I do too.
Now, it's not going to matter because they can't.
Yeah.
Even if Notre Dame, let's talk about the silly system. Even if Notre Dame were undefeated, the number 1 team in the country, they can't get a first-round bye and they have to be seeded 5th at worst. At best, I should say.
Got to be in a Power 4 conference.
Right. Goofy system.
Excuse me, in a Power conference. Get that.
All right, so that leaves Ohio State, Tennessee, Indiana. They've already said we're not going to reevaluate these teams. That's the way they had them ranked. So if these stay in the top 5,
right,
then that leaves you going back to Ohio State.
That's what,
which is what they projected.
Yep.
All right. Do we agree with that one though? Who's got a problem? Who's got a problem with Ohio State?
No, and I don't have a problem with Penn State staying where they are.
Well, the only problem I had would have been the rankings last week when Ohio State just totally, against a prohibitive favorite, arch rival Michigan. You're favored by 20. You lose 13-10, whether or not the melee and the ride or whatever afterward matters or not. They dropped 4 spots. Mm-hmm. Some teams like Georgia lose at Ole Miss drop 9.
I think Tennessee dropped 4 when they lost to Georgia, or 4 or 5.
So I just wondered about dropping them 4 where you still reward them with having a home playoff game. I didn't agree with that with Ohio State.
Well, I think you got to go back and look at what they had done before and who they had beaten and who is on your schedule and the resume, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this.
Who else has beaten 2 top 10 teams? I mean, the only until last night
they were undefeated.
They're
when
not top
played
10. They're top 5.
Yeah, Penn State and Indiana until last night. Their only losses on the year were to Ohio State.
Right.
And Ohio State had taken. Still, Ohio State's played Oregon closer than anybody else, and they did it at Oregon.
Yeah, 1 point. 1 point.
Yeah. So I think that's what their argument would be as to why. But I don't. Does anybody see any complaints? Any gripes you got? You got that we heard?
No, the gripes been taken care of. I went back and took a look. The last team to have multiple losses to win a national championship, 07 LSU with Les Miles. I think it's silly that a 3-loss Alabama team was even in this conversation until yesterday. And I think they're finally going to get put to rest today with the SMU bid. And this isn't me being Tennessee-Alabama guy. I think it's an absolute clown show that Alabama with 3 losses to 2 500 teams, it's been taken care of.
Bob,
but they played a better schedule.
But here's
not all wins are created equal. Not all losses are created equal.
We talked about something this morning though on the phone about Tennessee and Alabama. What if Tennessee next year is sitting there 9-3 with 3 wins over top 25?
And that is the deal.
I don't want to hear everybody crying.
You make the same argument about Alabama if this time next year it is Tennessee with 3 losses. With Alabama's schedule, 3 wins over top 25 teams, will you make the same argument that they do not deserve?
Real quick.
December 8th, 2025 on the Sports Source. Play the film back. Do it.
Okay.
Real quick. If you're Alabama, don't play like you did or didn't at Oklahoma.
That's what it is.
That's what it
They
comes
lost,
back down to me. Game, set, and match.
Okay, Josh, you finish this out. You get it. Complain, man.
Yeah,
Right.
The issue is the system. I'll credit everybody with the way they did it, but it created these problems that we talk about. You have the weekly made-for-TV rankings update,
Right.
which serves its purpose. It creates the drama and it creates the argument and the back and forth, but it also puts the committee in a position where they have to explain something going into results that haven't taken place.
You lock yourself in. You put yourself in a corner by doing that.
Yeah, but Ward Manuel also, I'm not to defend Ward Manuel, he's the person, he's the committee chairman. If he just went up there and said, the only reason I'm doing this is because they scheduled it for Tuesday night, instead of trying to explain why teams are ranked where they are, because we don't have what we have today, which is the complete resume of each team.
And if it were,
everything was going to move week to week.
And if it were me, you wouldn't do this. ESPN can still do a show. They can still debate it on Monday nights or Tuesday nights on TV, but don't release the rankings every week, because now you're getting into, well, this team dropped 5. Why did they only drop 4? They dropped. Why aren't they dropped? You don't have to deal with that. You just go in and start. And it also should take the when you lose out of it, because you're not lost at the end of the thing. How's that different than the loss at the beginning of it? Whereas if you've got a ranking that you keep moving, okay, well, they lost late. We got to change that. I just wouldn't even do them. Okay, when we come back, I'll tell you why I became an even bigger fan of Josh Heupel this week. We'll also talk a little Dylan Sampson. We went about 15 minutes over in that first segment. The rest of the show is going to be a race. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Heinz Company. Winter temperatures have arrived, so if you're starting a project, folks, you need winter building materials. You know who can tell you what materials you need? You know who can sell you those materials? Who can tell you how to use them? That would be A.G. Heinz Company. Get down and see Gordon and all the family at A.G. Heinz Company this week right on Heinz Street in downtown Knoxville. All right, let me put up the poll question, and we are racing here. There we go. There's your poll question. Your options. What will the playoff committee hand Tennessee today? A home game, a trip to Penn State, a trip to Ohio State, a trip to Texas. Now, before we started the show, the computer folks had said a trip to Penn State. I think all of our projections swung that to Ohio State, but we'll see. Again, you had 2 saying Ohio State, 1 saying Penn State, and I'm not so sure it's not Penn State. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it's Texas, though. But play along with us. Right under that Hearthside Bank logo is a little QR code. Use your smartphone. Get a shot of that. Play along, or visit our website. Go to the polls, hit the polls button, and you can play along there. We like keeping track of that. Need your feedback. Thank you very much. I was going to play a clip here, but we've went so far over in that first segment, I'm not going to play it. The whole point of the segment was to play the clip. Josh Heupel was on Rich Eisen's show this week. For those of you who didn't see it, Tyler, you saw it. Yep. Rich Eisen was giving him every opportunity in the world to complain, to campaign, to talk about, all right, what do you need to do? What has the committee gotten wrong, blah, blah, blah. Heupel would have none of it. It was literally, well, look, if you're worried about anything other than let's just tell me where to play, who to play, you're not going into it with the right mindset. I wanted to applaud the television set because it was the anti-Lane Kiffin. It was the adult in the room. There was no whining. There was no, well, if you're going to look at Alabama, we beat Alabama, the way Kiffin was with South Carolina. Yeah. It looked like somebody who's a football coach who was like, Rich, I appreciate you being here, man, for having me on. Thank you. We got to go to practice. It looked like a guy who's, let's get ready and go play. I loved it personally. My question, should he have campaigned?
No.
I don't like it, but should he have?
I mean, some of these guys keep going out on limbs that then get cut off behind them. And I think by doing that, you just set yourself up for your own fans to critique you on stuff that has nothing to do with how you coach and what you do on the field. And I think ever since he's been here, 99 times out of 100, his answers are the right answers. Even when they're non-answers, they're the right answers.
I appreciate his Sinatra approach. Do it his way, the way he calls the game, the way he does interviews. Ryan Callahan and Josh, when everybody goes down there and we're sitting there talking to Heupel, he's going to do the whole same kind of coach speak. He's going to load it up to just blanks. but he gets the job done. And honestly, I don't know if he needs to campaign. His team has done what they've needed to do this year, 10-2.
But he could have
Rich Eisen.
Kiffin would have been campaigning for a home game.
There's a big difference between Lane Kiffin and Josh
Well,
Heupel.
amen.
Yeah, one
there
of them's
is.
in the playoffs and one of them isn't.
That's right. I
There you
take
go.
Heupel every day, all day. Josh, should he have campaigned though? It's sitting out there. We're paying you millions of dollars as a state employee. Why aren't you campaigning for this?
No, I think the campaigning this week was a pretty big turnoff for everybody involved. And that was, I get why it's happening, like SMU's coach, Rhett Lashley, when he's campaigning for the potential spot. That's a weirder one because he's playing for an automatic bid, but he knows what could happen if they do lose the game. But I don't know anybody that wanted to see it. So I think often Josh Heupel's approach is to say as little as possible to create less headlines. And that was an easy spot to create less talk about, because he also knows they're in, which helps.
Yeah.
It's Belichickian in saying nothing, minus the jackass.
The genius.
But I mean, he says nothing really. There's no controversy, but at the same time, he's friendly with it. I mean, he was good on Rich Eisen. Chuck, should he have campaigned?
No. I mean, what good is it going to do to campaign to Rich Eisen anyway? You know,
The committee's watching.
Oh yeah,
Bated breath.
That's not to me. That's not going to look. His approach is, we like our situation. We're going to play. He says, put the ball down. Tell us what time to be there. What time we kick off. We'll go play. I mean, and I like that instead of all of that. Well, you know, if you look at this and this and this, and the key difference is, isn't Ole Miss like the second or third team out?
Yeah.
He almost has to try and campaign a little. He being,
pathetic.
you know, our genius, Lane Kiffin.
Okay, last question. Dylan Sampson was named USA Today's SEC Player of the Year. They no longer give that award. They haven't in 20 years in the SEC. Now it's divided. You got an Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he's going to get Defensive Player of the Year. But very quickly, just give me a yay or nay. Is Dylan Sampson going to win the SEC's official Offensive Player of the Year?
If he doesn't, that's a thing for Tennessee fans to get mad at. Yay. He
Okay.
should.
I'll say yes.
Yes. Tell me somebody better.
I think you
that's-
could look at Vandy.
Jackson Dart.
Nah.
I think Dylan Sampson wins
Dart's
it, but I
numbers
think
are terrific, but the big spots he fell short. So
I
would go
Kept
Dylan.
throwing
I think
picks at Florida.
Yeah.
I'll be the guy who says
Okay.
there could be somebody that messes something up. It could be Jackson
That's
Dart.
fine. The question was, do they get? It's not we get.
I don't
it,
like
so
your
it's, do they
attitude,
get?
Tom.
Apparently everybody does.
Well,
What
I
about-
like his
I mean,
attitude.
you also
It's
have
fine, being honest.
Pavia who could
Okay.
sneak in there because of just what he did to
Right.
elevate things.
Right.
All right, when we come back, Ryan Callahan joins us to talk about Tennessee signing day. Why is this still a thing? I mean, seriously, NIL, transfer portal? Okay, we all got to talk about signing day. We'll talk signing day with Ryan next. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Uncle Jim's River Cove Campground. That's rivercovecampground.com. Plenty of you out there enjoy cold weather camping. You're beating Mother Nature, although that could get you in trouble this day and age. But Mother Nature, she can take a beating. Go out there, have fun in the winter. River Cove Campground's got everything you possibly could need. Fire pits, grills, they got a store, they got bathhouse, you name it. They got the hookups for the RVs. I mean, it's fantastic. And it's right on the Little Pigeon River. rivercovecampground.com to learn more. All right, to learn more about recruiting, we always go to Ryan Callahan with GoVols 24/7. Ryan, thanks for being here to talk signing day. You can tell how excited I am. It used to be that signing day was a big deal because this is when you get your talent.
Yep.
This is, now you got people coming and going. I mean, you've already got people hitting the portal from Tennessee and other schools. People are going to be moving in, moving out. You got another window, in the spring for more of that?
Sure.
They haven't closed that yet. You can't keep track. The NCAA's moving these windows like crazy, so you may tell me, no, let's move to August. But signing day, to me, it seems less important because so many people can come in at different times. That said, football fans still follow it like it's a religion. So that makes you our pope. So tell me, did Tennessee, we talked earlier this year, Tennessee had a chance to have a special class we talked about. And let's go ahead and put up the rankings here from 24/7 Sports. Tennessee 10th on that list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're 7th in the SEC. Was it a special class? Did they max out and get what you thought they could get?
Did everything go exactly according to plan? Definitely not. They had a loss Sunday leading up to to early signing day. Laganza Hayward, 4-star safety, top 100 player nationally, flips to Florida on Wednesday after decommitting Sunday, taking a surprise visit to Florida. So that didn't go Tennessee's way. You still might lose the guy who's technically in the class right now, Onis Conan-Banny, a 4-star cornerback from South Carolina, originally from the UK. So.
And what's up with Otis? Where could he go?
Onis is looking at flipping to Florida as well, just waiting. He's not an early enrollee, so he has more time to play that out. Might bring his mom in for a visit from overseas. So, so there's still more time for that, but it looks like he's not headed to Tennessee as of right now. So he's kind of artificially inflating Tennessee's team score for a little while longer.
Okay, well, there you go. So that still counts the commitments.
Yes.
Even though it's signing day, they don't just count the signees as they come in.
Yep. So David Sanders was still part of Tennessee's class even on Wednesday before he signed. So some things haven't gone exactly according to plan for Tennessee, but it's still a really good class, and I still think it's the best class Tennessee has signed under Josh Heupel to this point. So top to bottom, it's really good. This will sort of play into our next segment, so I don't want to jump ahead too much.
Yeah, let's not get into whether they're catching up.
But I will say the gap has closed so much between the top 10 teams that sort of twists how you look at this. The fact that Tennessee's 10th ranked class this year would probably have been good enough 5 years ago to be ranked 6th or 7th because there's so much quality top to bottom now that there's just not a huge gap between 1 and 10 now.
Okay. Looking over at your all's publication and where the rankings are, and John brought it up 7th in the conference, but just percentage points off of some of these other schools, A&M, LSU. How fine is that gap? And when people say, oh, you're 10th, but you could easily have been 7th with one addition, one subtraction, the math on that for the people who are kind of the novices, where is that on the percentage points?
Yeah, so I don't want to get too far in the weeds because our team scores are tough to figure out.
Right.
I don't even know exactly how many points. You know, the number of points that get added to the team score based on each player varies depending on
it's all about the
factors.
rankings. Oh, 10th to 7th. Yeah.
But the team scores, looking at it, I went back and looked 5, 4, 3 years ago. There were some years that the gap between 1 and 10 was 70 or so points, some years 60 or so, some years 50 or so. The gap between number 2, because Texas is a little ahead of everybody else, the gap between number 2 and number 10 this year, about 25 points.
Wow.
So it's a substantially closer pack. So Tennessee, to that point, if they had held on to Laganza Hayward, they'd still be ranked 8th. They lose him, they drop 2 spots because of one player that dropped them 4 points. So it's a very close pack.
Stupid Laganza.
No, the talent's just being spread thinner than it's ever been, and that's why you're seeing so much parity in the college football playoff, so much parity. The transfer portal adds to it. It's just more competitive. So a 10th ranked class now is not what a 10th ranked class was 5 years ago.
You must have mentioned Laganza Hayward 5 times during our 14 Saturday kickoff shows when we would do the guys to watch. He was always on the, all right, going to have to hold on to him.
And it looked like they were going to hold on to him. And then Florida swoops in and makes a move late. So,
Bob, you got a question for Ryan? Quickie?
Well, this one just popped into my head because we talked about 2 years ago, I guess it was, NIL, it's going to change everything. You show that list of top 10, it changed nothing. I mean, am I looking at that wrong, or is it just, okay, same guys, same places, move up or down a few rungs, but it's the same people?
No, I wouldn't say that's wrong. Now, what has changed is, again, how much the talent is being spread around. Like we're seeing last year especially, programs like Missouri winning big-time recruiting battles for 5 stars and high 4 stars that never would have happened in the past. SMU is a program with a lot of resources. They're getting some good players here and there. So it's just everyone has the capability of winning a big-time battle now, and that wasn't the case. So that's the main thing that's changed. But the overall big-picture view, I would agree, hasn't changed much. It's the programs that are the haves are going to have the resources to go out and be good, and the ones that don't are still going to be behind a little bit.
So the big boys may lose one guy to a Missouri, and one other big guy loses a big player to Duke. But other than that, the big guys still coalesce most of the talent.
Generally speaking, but
it hasn't changed much.
Well, generally speaking, yes. But again, like here's a good example. Auburn, without a good season behind them at all, dominated the state of Alabama this year. Alabama had a very good class. A lot of it was out of state. Auburn racked up the top 10 players in the state of Alabama. So that's the kind of thing that, like, little shifts like that are making a difference. In Florida, without a good season, decided to keep their coach. They make a late push, and they had a really good class. So things like that wouldn't have happened in the past. So NIL just gives you more opportunities for the programs that have all those resources.
And it all means so much when we hit the portal and we don't know how many of these guys stay or go. All right, when we come back, is Tennessee closing the gap? We danced around this one. Are they closing the gap on the big boys in the SEC? They have on the field, clearly, third in the SEC this year. But are they closing that gap in terms of the talent and the roster before we get to the portal? We'll look at 4 and 5 stars, the real blue chippers, the playmakers. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Year-round, the very best pest control company in East Tennessee. And I mean all over East Tennessee. They will go all everywhere. You just need to call them, need to check them online. They'll tell you exactly whether or not they head to your direction. But I'm guessing if you're watching the show, they'll come to where you are. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. The Haynes family does a great job. I use them myself. SoutheastTermite.com. All right, let's remind folks of the poll question. So there we go. Still a trip to Ohio State is the leader. I still think there's a possibility it's Penn State, but okay, we don't see. There are a few homers there, literally saying a home game, about 14% of you it looks like. Go ahead and tell us what you think, and we'll keep track of that. And again, just to remind you, later in the show, we know that ESPN is going to reveal their bracket. They claim it's going to be about 12:15, so I would sit right here with us. We will be watching it as well, and we can sit there and go, you're eighth, as well as anybody. Plus, we'll be discussing Tennessee's matchup when it happens. And you get the added benefit of just watching us flail around until they announce it, so it should be fun.
We get to yell, correct?
Yes, lots of screaming.
Yeah.
Screaming is welcome. Okay, let's take a look. 4- and 5-star blue chippers right here as we continue to talk recruiting. All right, Texas 5 5-stars, 14 4-stars. That's 19 blue chippers. Alabama 4 5-stars. Georgia 5 5-stars. Oregon 4 5-stars. Hope I'm saying this right. Ohio State 2. LSU 3 5-stars. Texas A&M, Michigan 2 each. Tennessee 1. Auburn 1. Okay. Look, you got 16. Texas has 19. What's the difference between a 5 and a 4? That's the eye of the beholder. But Ryan Callahan, we know Josh Heupel can coach a team up. You just finished third. You tied for second if you don't, you lost to Georgia, so that was the tiebreaker. But your record, second best in the SEC this year out of a 16-team league, and you didn't have the best talent in the league, although portal and everything plays into that. And we know he's catching up on the field. Are they catching up roster-wise, talent-wise, off the field? When I look there and I see Texas and Georgia and Alabama with 5 5-stars and you've got 1, I say no, but am I not looking at it correctly?
I think, are they catching up in a way that makes you think they're going to be recruiting like Georgia in a few years if they keep this up? No, I wouldn't say that. Are they closing the gap on the teams at the top that they're chasing? Yeah, I think so. And I think, obviously, the transfer portal is helping them in that regard. NIL is making it easier to win some of those battles here and there. So there are multiple things that are bringing the field closer together. That's why Tennessee's in the college football playoff this year. So a lot of things still conspiring to play into that. But bottom line is Tennessee's recruiting at a higher level. The pack has kind of fallen back toward them a little bit too. So, yes, they're getting closer to those teams. And as I've always said, if you're recruiting top 10 classes year after year, so Tennessee's now done that a couple times under Josh Heupel, you are giving yourself a chance to compete for championships because it comes down to, at that point, evaluations, retention, all the things like that. And most importantly, some of Tennessee's biggest wins in this class, quarterback and line of scrimmage. That's where the game is played. David Sanders at offensive tackle, 4 really good defensive linemen. They're all 4-stars. And another highly ranked quarterback in George McIntyre. You get those right, or mostly right, you're going to be in the mix.
This morning, John and I were talking. I went through and looked at Tennessee's team with their 4 stars. Almost all of their best players are the 5-star quarterback and then 4-star guys. Dylan Sampson, I forgot he was a 4-star. James Pierce Jr. was a 4-star. I looked up Norman Lott. He was a 4-star. Cooper Mays was a 4-star. That seems where you can build a really, really good competitive team. But then as I was watching games yesterday, I went and looked up some of those guys too. And then you look at the real difference makers a lot of other places. It's all 5 and 4 stars, which almost seems nowadays the 3 stars, you can develop one into a first-round NFL draft pick. But is that becoming a little irrelevant for these teams in the top 10?
Yes, and I mean, in a way, but evaluations still matter. I mean, Dylan Sampson, to your point, was a 3-star most of the process, became a 4-star late, maybe even after early signing.
As soon as he signed.
Yeah, I mean, sometime after his senior season, when his senior film got out. So, yeah, I mean, evaluations still matter, and I like the point you maybe indirectly made there. James Pierce was a 4-star, sort of a late riser, like middle-of-the-pack 4-star. There are plenty of 5-stars Tennessee signed over the years. Khalil McKenzie, guys like that, who weren't as good a player in college as James Pierce is. So if you're getting those types of 4-stars and you're getting the right ones, it's as good as a 5-star sometimes. So you just got to, evaluations still matter, and you've got to ultimately get it right. Sometimes we, as an industry, don't get it right. No one's going to bat 1,000. Sometimes coaches don't get it right. So,
well, there's so many variables in these kids as to whether, I mean, does their girlfriend go to another school and they're heartbroken and they don't play well? Is there an injury? Do they not like algebra? You know, there's 1,000 things. Is the coach an idiot?
Do you give up on one that wants to go to the transfer portal too early? He wants to leave after a year for more money. You say he's not worth it. He goes and you make the wrong decision. That matters.
Looking at your recruiting rankings, Tennessee's a place where 5-stars go to die. It's not good. Most of the 5-stars Tennessee has signed have been average players at best.
In the past, that's definitely one of the problems they had under previous coaches. Now, Nico, I guess the story's still to be written there a little bit, but they've got to make the most.
Good enough to get to a playoff with him.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he carried you there, but he was good enough to get you there. Yeah. Josh, you got a question or a comment here to wrap us up?
I would just think, Ryan, the point you made about line of scrimmage and quarterback matters so much, as well as think about where those guys could have gone. David Sanders Jr. could have gone to Ohio State. It was Tennessee, OSU. They recruited at the very top. Yep. At quarterback, Nico could have gone anywhere. It was Oregon, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. And then George McIntyre's Tennessee over Alabama. So I think it's a mix of where are they ranked if we're having that conversation of the best schools, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, how they recruit year in, year out. But did those schools want those guys? Like Ricky Gibson, when he chose Tennessee, choosing Tennessee over Georgia, I think elevated how we should have viewed him, and now he's a quality starter as a second-year corner.
Yep, I think that's all great points, and I just think you showed it right there. Alabama, sure, they've got the 4 5-stars in this class, but when they've got 19 4 and 5 stars, and Tennessee's at 16, 8 spots below, that's just not a huge gap. I mean, Tennessee's class could end up being better than a top 5 class in these rankings ultimately.
It'll be interesting to see where most of these guys go once they go into the portal.
Yeah, there's that too. But Tennessee's done a pretty good job of retaining their talent too when they get it. So I mean, that's a big part of this. But yeah, I just think when you look at where they got their wins, they did a lot of things right in this class. It wasn't perfect, never is going to be, and you're going to lose some things you don't want to. But overall, I think it's a positive sign. They're moving in the right direction.
For the most part, Heupel doesn't live and die in the portal.
Yeah.
So that makes, as much as I joke about it, that makes signing day more important here than it would be at a place like Ole Miss, where they do live and die through the portal. That's where they spend most of their money. All right, Ryan, very good. Bob, thank you today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
When we come back, Mark Pancratz joins us. We got basketball, then we got the bracket stuff. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. The segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. When you're thinking about Christmas gifts, folks, think about a big one for yourself and your whole family. How about a new or pre-owned boat from Madisonville Marine? It's not unlike the Jelly of the Month Club. That is a gift that keeps on giving the whole year round. Madisonville Marine, grab yourself a boat. Or, when you are in the market for a boat, remember the name, Madisonville Marine, because there's no better place to buy a boat. No better person to talk basketball with than Mark Pancratz, sitting right there, former Vol assistant coach, former D1 basketball player at Milwaukee. Thank you for being here, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
We haven't caught up in a while. I was going to ask you, I was just going to start by saying observations on the Vols and how they're doing. But since they're going to be number 1 in the new rankings when it comes out, or at least that's assumed, I think everybody knows they're doing pretty well. They've won their first 8 games by 15 points or more. It's been a solid start. But I do want to get 3 observations for you. Again, we're racing, for those who are wondering. We're racing to get ready for the bracket, and then we're going to sit and wait for them to announce the bracket. It's the beauty of TV.
Yeah.
So, 3 quick observations that you've picked up on about this Tennessee team so far.
Well, the first thing, I keep going back to the culture because this is Zakai's year, right? Meshack came back, could have went other places. He's going to be a senior, and they've welcomed in this new wave of talent. You know, to be able to kind of not step aside. I mean, obviously Zakai is still your leader, but when you're going into your senior year, I've been around it. I was there when Brian Williams and Scotty Hobson approached Tobias Harris and were like, hey, this is our team, as Tobias was coming in as a 5-star recruit as a freshman. And so the fact that Zakai and Meshack are not stepping aside, but they're welcoming those guys and empowering them, that says a lot about this culture. And so then the next piece for me is you look at our offensive efficiency. This team and program has been really known for their defense. Yeah. Right now, 8 games in, they're scoring over 1 point per possession, which is that's a lot of points. I mean, that's high up there in national averages. And the way that they're doing it, they're playing more up tempo. But Igor, which would be my third observation, how they're using Igor. Last year with Awaka and Adu, both of those guys in ball screen action were pick and roll guys. Now when you've got Felix, who's still a pick and roll guy, but now you throw in Igor, into a ball screen in the same possession, it's making defenses have to adapt quickly. They don't know, am I switching? Is this guy going to pick and pop, pick and roll? Whereas last year, everybody was a pick and roll guy. So Igor being able to pick and pop, shoot the basketball, be able to switch defensive ball screens, he's been a huge difference maker in the way that this team started this year.
It's remarkable the change that Rick Barnes has made in the last couple of years, going from so heavy. Remember 2 years ago, it was just painful to watch offensively. Last year, you had Dalton connect, and the team becomes more of a scoring threat. And now this year, you're doing it again. You bring in Chaz Lanier, who's fit right in. To me, it's amazing how Rick Barnes continues to, in lack of a better word, evolve. You wouldn't think a guy who's been in it for so long would continue to every year kind of evolve and change his game a little bit to bring in guys, keep the culture right, but be able to utilize them. I don't know that he was – it seemed like before he was trying to put square pegs in round holes a little bit. Now it seems like he's more adjusted to, I'm going to take what I've got and fit it into, I'm going to make something that fits for these guys.
Yeah.
Questions, comments?
I keep watching this team play, Mark, and Ziegler is like leading the team in minutes. How long can you keep putting him out there the whole game, basically the whole game, and who's going to be the point guard? Who can step up at that position? You're going to need somebody.
Yeah, right now he's averaging about 33 minutes a game, and that would be okay if we were playing a lot of close ball games, right? We're winning by 27 points or whatever it is, and he's still playing 33 minutes a game. I think that is the biggest hole that this team has, is who is your backup point guard? And look, you're talking about elite programs when you immediately go, what's their biggest gap? And you're talking about their backups. So that's a good sign. But I do think Zakai's wear and tear, we saw that down the stretch last year, that if he's not fresh, it's going to hurt this team, especially the way that he plays so hard on both ends. They're more excited about Boswell and his improvement than where they were at early in the preseason. Four-star freshman on the roster. Gainey's playing a little bit of point guard, but at the end of the day, they don't have a true backup point guard if Zakai goes out.
What do you think of Lanier, whose numbers obviously have been terrific to start?
Yeah, golly, can he score at all three levels? Plays at an incredible tempo, and I think what I like about him most, and I think what NBA guys like about him most, is his efficiency. He doesn't need 23 shots to score 27 points. He's doing it on 16 shots, and he's playing, 25, 26 minutes a game. Just the tempo that he plays at, the character that he plays with, and he's obviously shooting it at a high clip.
All right, very good. When we come back, we're going to talk more basketball, but I will tell you, Ryan Callahan, Tyler Ivins were on their cell phones. They just noticed that in the AP poll, without playing, Ohio State has jumped Tennessee, who didn't play, which seems to suggest that the people voting in the AP poll know what's coming in the playoff bracket. It's like, well, we might as well get on board that Ohio State's going to be ahead of Tennessee and hosting them. We'll see if that's how it turns out, but Tennessee has been jumped by Ohio State in the AP poll today. Come on back, more basketball, then bracket stuff. Check before Santa and his reindeer land on it, folks. You don't want leaks this winter. You also don't want the big man falling through and breaking his ankle. Santa can be litigious. Check out Daniel Hood's website and read all those testimonials from folks like yourself. Then you'll know why you need to call Daniel Hood Roofing ASAP. DanielHoodRoofing.com. All right, let's see the final results of our poll question. I'm going to guess it's going to lean toward, a trip to Ohio State. That's what everybody's predicting. We will see and tell you shortly whether or not that's what Tennessee gets. But right now, back with Mark Pankratz, Tyler Ivins, Ryan Callahan. We're going to make this a quick segment, so I'm going to get you two to fire questions at Mr. Pankratz, and you have to sit there and get peppered again.
All right. We've already talked about it on the radio show, so I'll just follow up with a little bit of a progress report. Before Thanksgiving, I asked about Cameron Carr, how well they can actually close the gap with his injury. How well do you feel like they've done? Because 9 scholarship athletes right now that are essentially in the rotation, you're going to need him back healthier than ever. I know the date is the early conference portion in January. How do you think they've done without having Carr off the bench?
I would say they've done well without Carr. I think it hurts Carr's development for him to be out. Absolutely. And his involvement for the end of the conference league. I think you're going to see more teams keep less scholarship guys on. In the NIL era, less scholarship guys, more money can go to the concentrated guys. You're not having to navigate the roster balances of, hey, the 11th scholarship guy is not getting any playing time, and so he's already trying to find other places to go. So I think you're going to see more teams kind of do what Pat Summitt did back in the day and keep less scholarship athletes.
What's your biggest concern about this team getting ready for SEC play? Any certain thing that's maybe lurking beneath the surface that we're not seeing in these non-conference games where they're scoring a lot of points?
I think there's one thing where people can handle adversity and not feeling like they're getting the respect, and there's another thing that when you go to number one in the country, how do you handle it? I don't think we've played some of the talent that some of these other programs have played right now, and the SEC's loaded. And so we're not going to win every game. We may lose 2, maybe lose 3 in a row, and maybe finish top 3 or 4, maybe win the SEC, but we're going to face some adversity yet. And this team, this group of guys, this locker room has not faced any adversity, and so that's my biggest concern. When they do catch a couple losses, how do we handle it?
Which is interesting considering how well Rick Barnes usually schedules, and he got some good names on the schedule this year. It's just some of those names are a little bit on the downslope, including Miami, who they will play next at Madison Square Garden. We'll talk and get a preview from Mark about that next, going back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. It's time for an anniversary at Safety Systems. They're celebrating their 25th year of being a partner to businesses and homeowners and families all across East Tennessee. Security systems, home automation, they do it all. Turn to Safety Systems. Call VFL JJ Surlis this week. Tell them I said, hey, safetysystems.com. All right, back with Chuck Cavaleris, back with Ryan Callahan, back with Mark Pancratz. You guys can jump in on the backside of this, but I will ask you, you've got Tennessee going to Miami to play, well, not to Miami. They're going to Madison Square Garden to play Miami this week on Tuesday night. Miami, team that was in the Final Four just a couple of years ago, they're 3-6 under Jim Larrañaga. What can fans expect? Obviously, their team isn't good, but what can you expect from a Larrañaga coach team?
Yeah, well, I guess everybody's wanting to talk about football. So unlike our football team, they're terrible at defense. They're like 300-something ranked on defense. They don't guard the three-point shot very well. They only have 6 steals a game. They're really struggling. Look, they've lost 6 in a row. Offensively, they bring back 2 starters, a guard in Pack that's pretty good. They don't shoot it well from the perimeter. Assisted turnover ratio isn't great, but they normally with Larrañaga they want to play up and down. They're going to do a lot of ball screen stuff, but they just don't have the pieces right now to compete with some. They played Arkansas close in the SEC Challenge, but have not been able to pull many out.
Let me give you another quick one. I may owe you guys for another segment. I apologize. Just Madison Square Garden in general. You were part of the staff that went up there and won the NIT tip-off in 2010. Beat VCU, beat Villanova up there. It's the world's most famous arena. It's considered the mecca of college basketball. To fans, is it, as someone who's been in that building and been a part of it as a team, is the mystique more than the building, or is it special to be in there?
I think it's special from a coaching standpoint. I think players, like we brought players to Italy, and you're sitting there and the Louvre is right over there, and they're sitting there looking on their phone. They don't get too much into it. But it is a special place, and I think the other part about it is when you go into New York and you realize like you're playing in this big city, and it is special. But I don't think the players get wrapped up into it too much.
Ryan, Chuck, you got anything quick to close with?
Sounds like the
Very
type
quick.
of game. Take care of business. It's a neutral side. It's a team that's been struggling. Just keep doing what you're doing and bury them by like 20.
When your point guard's from New York and your point guard's the leader of their team, you're going to say, hey, guys, like, I'm not going out losing in my home state my last time.
Right.
Let's get this win. So I think they'll come out ready to play.
Anything to close it? No. All right. Ryan says he's done
He's
with
on
it.
the football.
Let's go. Mark, thanks for being here. We'll see you here next week,
Yep.
and we won't be sitting here waiting for the brackets. And we're going to keep you posted on the brackets. We're going to take a break. Come on back. We'll tell you all about what Tennessee gets handed, and then we'll have immediate reaction to where they're going and what that matchup will look like. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. Christmas is almost here. You can make Games and Things your cleanup hitter. They will be the home run at the end of your shopping list. You can get big house-changing gifts like a poker table, pool table, foosball table, shuffleboard table, or you can get small gifts, stocking stuffer type stuff. Or if you don't know what somebody wants, get them a gift card. That's a perfect stocking stuffer. Gift card from Games and Things, because life should be fun. OurGameRoom.com to learn more. Okay, the current situation, we are waiting. There are reports coming in. Brett McMurphy of the Action Sports Network, longtime college football reporter, he is saying
that SMU is in the college football playoff and Alabama is out. So, and that tweet came out at right at noon. So you would think that might be based on accurate information. The bracket's done at this point. So we'll see if that turns out to be true, but no reason to doubt it on the surface.
And in terms of the gambling sites, they are lining it up for Tennessee at Ohio State, correct? Most of them that we've seen.
FanDuel was the first one to jump on it. They anticipate it will be Tennessee going to Columbus with the Vols as a 7.5-point underdog for that showdown with the Bucs.
All right, if Tennessee winds up on the road at Ohio State, and we know why, it's because they don't have the record, the strength of schedule that Ohio State does.
Right.
Does that, nobody likes to hear that, but I squawk about scheduling all the time. Now, part of that was you got a bad break in your SEC schedule. You got Mississippi State, you got Kentucky, you got Oklahoma, who was kind of down 6-6. You didn't play the best in the league this year. Now, that can rotate year to year, but you didn't do yourself many favors outside the conference. Do you think this changes? I mean, you're going to lose millions upon millions of dollars for the Knoxville economy by not having a home game. Does that change the way Danny White approaches scheduling at all, or does he just say, nah, it's a product of the SEC being up and down, it all comes out in the wash?
Not one bit. If anything, I think what happened this year causes everyone to stray towards scheduling easier. Look at South.
That was my next question.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, Clemson, they would have been in the playoff last night if they had not scheduled Georgia and South Carolina.
Yep.
Since they did, they had to win the conference championship to get there. So I just think everyone's going to look at it and say, record matters a little bit more than having a tough schedule. It matters to have a tough schedule in a tiebreak situation, but you got to be in the discussion. That means schedule easy.
It happens the way this committee is,
Yes.
maybe. But if it changes to where it's more of a BCS type computerized, I said this earlier, somebody had told me the goal is to stay undefeated as long as you possibly can.
Yep.
However you need to schedule, as long as you're undefeated, that keeps you in the mix.
You asked me in August this exact same question, and I said Dog Meat University week in and week out. Look at Indiana's strength of schedule this year. It's pathetic. It's a joke. Guess what? It's all about what you're doing in December. Tennessee, they've seen what they've had to go through. It's going to get easier.
Well, good for Danny White. I mean, and good, congratulations, Vol fans. I guess you'd rather be at the end of the year playing in the playoffs, and if you have to sit through 3 scrimmages against nobodies, you'll do it, and you'll fork over your money to do it. I think it's pathetic, personally. It'd be like if somebody gave me hey, your Patriots can be good again if you just play in the CFL. Yeah, I don't want to play in the CFL. No, I want to play big boy. That's what I want to do. But I am clearly in the minority. Most fans prefer to play suck.
Josh, CBS Sports does a great job of doing their bottom 134, 135. The end of the regular season, Tennessee will have faced 3 of the worst teams in all of college football. Mississippi State you couldn't have avoided because they're in your conference. But then you also add on the fact that this year you played UTEP and Kent State. That's a recipe of where you are in December now, and that's going to the college football playoff.
Yeah, and part of the conversation is to be in, and then there's the conversation of where are you once you're in, because Tennessee's strength of schedule probably hurts in the argument against Ohio State
the seeding
for home field, but it helps to have
get
a better
in.
record to get in. You got to be in, obviously, to have a shot. Being at home gives you a better shot than if you're traveling. So I think there are different chapters to the conversation, but to be a part of the field, which is the biggest goal at the start of every season, to be a part of it, the message is, hey, play an easier schedule. You got to go win those games. You can't have a bad upset.
What's so funny
but if you win, you're in.
What's so funny is you continually hear these people every offseason, strength of schedule is going to be very important. But then you create a committee of humans who don't want people mad at them because, well, how did you put a 3-loss team over a 2-loss team?
Yeah.
They don't want to hear that. They don't want to deal with that. So strength of schedule goes out the window until the very end when they will use it to decide which team gets in. It's like the NCAA tournament, so the basketball tournament. The first 98% of that thing is just math. And everybody, Lunardi, Palm, we could project it down to 98% of it. It's the last 2 where they start using their eye test, and here we're using strength of schedule, here we're using this, what was RPI.
Yeah.
football's kind of becoming the same thing. I wonder if is there going to be any blowback to where that might change, in your opinion, or is this what we're looking at? Are we always going to have a stupid committee rather than computers? I had no problem with the old BCS system. In fact, I would get rid of humans altogether. Bring on the AI. Get rid of the dumb humans.
Can ChatGPT just tell us who should be in the
Yes,
playoffs?
discover the computer. You program the computer to, based on schedule or whatever, however you want to break it down.
Well, see, that was
and then it spit it out.
the problem with the BCS was you didn't have everybody bought in at the time. You had the Big Ten and Pac-10 still trying to do their own thing. You had computers that were kind of wacky. If you just
you tried to incorporate 10 different computers,
and some of the computers' formulas were just off the wall apparently. So if you got the computers to have a formula that you could understand, you have maybe even you have it open to where everyone understands exactly what the formula is for that computer.
Yes.
I mean, there's a way to do it and do it right, and that formula wasn't a bad idea.
Like the quad one wins that separate all that. And when you schedule somebody like an NC State, you need them to go on and have a good season. You don't need them. You think that's going to be a good win when you go beat them convincingly.
Yeah. Strength of schedule matters, but I just think it's going to be one of those things viewed as a tiebreaker. And in another year, it's going to matter. In another year, there are going to be more 2-loss teams, or there are going to be a couple 3-loss teams that get in, and that's where the Alabama resume would get you in. This year, it works out that the right number of teams lost 2 games, and that's going to take care of it.
Okay. Remember when a certain radio and TV host used to have people come on a show and say, "Don't play nobody, Paul"? That used to be a real shot in the ribs. Now, don't care who you play. It's all about how you get there. In Tennessee, say what you will after the loss to Georgia, they had it handed to them and then it slipped through their fingers. They're back in a position. They did what they needed to do to get in. MAC teams?
Yeah.
Come on down. More Mountain West teams, AAC teams, come on down. This is what's going to be the new college football.
I'm going to stop complaining. If all fans are happy to pay for that, and if Danny White's happy to back into the conference like everybody else does, go for it. And if you're rewarded for doing it, then why would you change it? So to me, if this is your system, Danny White is smart to schedule absolute trash. And he has for next year. He's not only found teams from bad conferences, he's once again found the bottom of the bad conference. You've got UAB and New Mexico State. You look at Ohio State, they played a 9-3 Marshall this year. They played a 6-6 Western Michigan. They could have played 0-12 Kent State, the worst team in college football, but they didn't look at it and say, hey, let's get the worst. Let's get somebody medium from this. Let's get medium-style crap instead of pure crap. You get pure crap here, but it's not going to hurt you except for this home game. Tyler, hang on to it. I want to catch a break. Come back, and we'll reveal the bracket. Come on back. All right, welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Paper Be Gone. It won't be long before tax season is here, and that'll mean you can throw away another old batch of documents. Be smart about that. There are plenty of ne'er-do-wells who'll go dumpster diving to grab your information. Trust Paper Be Gone to dispose of your records, your company's records, the right way. All right, they are explaining on ESPN how the bracket works. As we wait for them to announce where these teams are going.
They haven't done that each of the past 5 weeks during the ranking shows.
I know.
I still find a lot of confusion out there about how it works, though.
That's true. I mean,
it is pretty confusing at times.
The way the seedings differ from the rankings I thought from the start was kind of an issue, and it hasn't really gotten clearer to a lot of people.
When my mom has to call me and say, what do the 2 numbers mean in each bracket, I thought one meant one. It's like, Mom, they're not trying to they're not reinventing the wheel, but they also don't make it the easiest thing.
All right, we're just going to pretend that we'll tell you what they say if they ever decide to say it.
They are still tap dancing.
Yeah, that's good. They can tap dance to hell. Here's what I want to go, Tyler.
No, I think it's, I'll tell you this. I think it's Tennessee, Ohio State. I think they've already set it up. It's Tennessee, Ohio State. Tennessee's only played Ohio State one time in the program's history. And 12-year-old Tyler Ivins loved being in Orlando watching Eddie George get his carcass drug up and down the puddles in 1996. So if there's anybody out there who wants to see maybe a Tennessee, Ohio State rematch, I might be here on the side by myself on an island, but I'm kind of here for it.
Well, I'm thrilled with it. Having lived in Columbus, I would love to see this. Oregon #1, Georgia #2. No surprises there. Yep. What I was going to say is, if it is Ohio State, I would prefer Penn State to Ohio State.
Yes.
Because Penn State showed me an offense for the first time yesterday.
Yep.
Ohio State showed me an offense, or failed to show me an offense once all year against Michigan. Ohio State's the more athletic team. They look like a legitimate #1 except for that last week. I think they're a little scarier than Penn State would be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed?
Yes.
Somebody take this so this is me
Well,
tossing
no. So
it.
look, we go back to the poll question
They
that you
still
had up
haven't announced
earlier
it.
today, and it's going to be a Big Ten team. So if you told me right now Ohio State or Penn State, I'm just going nostalgia here because I loved being in a rainy Orlando and sitting there and mouthing off to Ohio State fans. But from a who advances
Roster.
for a chance to go, I would definitely say Penn State because I just don't think they're as consistent as you've already pointed out than the team in Columbus.
Well, I'll say this too. I mean, let's not forget Tennessee's not been a good road team over the past few years. So either of these is going to be a really tough environment.
Get loud.
Penn State's a place, whiteout games, all that stuff. Ohio State's always a tough place to play. Neither of these is going to be easy, especially if it's a primetime game. And either of those matchups would be big time. So the chance you're playing a night game. So either way, it's going to be a tough game. But yes, to your point, John, I would have preferred, if I'm Tennessee, a matchup with Penn State because then the higher scoring offense is not the issue. Ohio State, you're much more capable of getting blown out in that game. Penn State's not going to run away with
Let's
away
just
from
drop all
you.
pretenses here. Josh, you're in charge of watching. When something gets announced, just yell it. Talk over whoever's here. It's like election
They're
night
basically
coverage.
filling in the buys
So
right now, the four
Boise
buys.
State number 3. Boise State got the 3.
Yep,
Is
they're
it going to
celebrating
be
now. So now it's
either gonna be-
Arizona State or Clemson for the number 4 seed.
So if you're number 6 or number 11, you're going to the winner there is going to get Boise State.
Yeah.
In the second round matchup.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem
Where
people are going to have.
Tennessee's not only 8 and 9, Ohio State or Penn State, you're going to Oregon. You're
Right.
going to play
And
Oregon.
In the
Right
Rose
about
Bowl.
that too. Oregon's sitting there thinking, wait a minute.
We
hold
just
on.
beat Ohio
Which
State.
we've talked about
Brett
the last few
Yormark
months.
got
So
his
the,
Brett Yormark's politician.
Arizona
politicking.
State is the 4 seed.
The
Brett
way
Yormark.
Arizona State's playing, I would have put them as the 4.
Brett
They were
Yormark
ranked ahead
the
of
last
Clemson
3
going
days.
in, so not a surprise that Arizona State pounding Iowa State.
Do you
gets
agree
the
Arizona State
4
should get a bye? Because I thought Brett Yormark has done a fantastic job politicking for his conference.
Yeah,
the last couple
I
days.
think so. I haven't paid attention to Brett Yormark, but I would say that Arizona State getting in there makes sense.
Every
They're
commercial-
the hottest team in the country.
Every commercial they ran during the Iowa State-Arizona State game yesterday were everything the Big 12's done compared to the SEC, the Big 10, and the ACC, just hammering that point home. And I went,
Right.
money well spent. If you're politicking, they did it right yesterday in the early window.
I guess you can leave it to your commissioner to do that rather than having because I can't go
hear
back
you.
after saying I was
Yeah,
glad to see
I
Heupel
hear you.
didn't do it.
I mean, just who would have said before the season that Boise State's can be the 3 seed and Arizona State's the
Right.
4? I mean, this
Arizona
Even
State
a week ago.
preseason
Even a week
picked.
ago.
I think they're going
Arizona
to take their
State-
time, and we're not going to get the final bracket.
Yeah.
We got 3 minutes, so thank you, ESPN.
To answer your question,
Yeah,
Arizona
they're
State was picked
longer than
last
they did
this
last
year
year.
preseason in the Big 12.
Wild.
Last.
Yep.
The question for Ohio State is if that's where you're going, 1, that's going to be an easy trip. That's 5.5 hours, 5 if you drive like me. It is simple to get up there, and it's a good trip. But Vol fans should have an easy time getting up there. Much easier than Pennsylvania and Happy Valley. It's
If
a
you're a
straight
Vols
shot.
fan and you're saying, what's my path look like to be able to get to where I'm going? You are likely going to be going to Columbus, Ohio when that gets confirmed. And then if you beat Ohio State, guess what? You're heading to the Rose Bowl to take on number 1 Oregon. likely.
Which would be cool to see Tennessee in the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of people were looking forward to that in
Chuck,
2001.
Chuck, say something. You've been quiet this whole segment.
Well, I've been
Well,
trying
we're
to
watching.
Look,
so-
Ohio State, it keeps it the way they had it, the 8-9 matchup, right?
Yeah.
There's been changes above that. There's going to be changes below that. So those two teams didn't play. To me, it keeps it to where that's stable, that's locked in. It's the third team from the SEC going to play the Big Ten team. It makes sense to keep that the same.
The problem people are going to have with these brackets, if they go the way we think they're going to, the 12 and 11 seeds
We
are
have Texas, Clemson in the
8-9?
5 in the
5-12.
5-12
12,
matchup.
yeah.
So Clemson at Texas.
So the problem people are going to have with this is the 12 seed has an easier path to the semifinals than the 8 or 9 seed.
It's
Things
another
like
part
that.
of this stupid,
Because
bracket. Yeah.
Tennessee or Ohio State is going to advance in this if
So
this
this-
bracket plays out the way we think, and they're going to face the number 1 team in the country. Someone's going to win that Texas Clemson game and have Arizona State waiting in the second round.
I think this could unfold with SMU playing at Penn State.
Yep.
And then Arizona.
And then when you
Which would be
look
the
at
winner
it,
goes
could
to
have
Boise.
Indiana, Indiana going to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They're starting to fill in just like you would think it would.
But the thing there, I mean, if you're looking at Penn State could go to Boise okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, anything can happen, but I think you'd like that draw. It's
I
a
love
long
the-
draw, but I think you'd rather play Boise State than Georgia or Oregon.
Exactly.
Without
Oh,
question.
The way it looks right now.
Yeah, without question. So
And not on the blue
Texas's
field.
road
Yeah, I
to
know.
the semis is at home against Clemson, and then neutral site against Arizona State, the 4th ranked automatic bid.
Congratulations, Texas. We'll see you in 2
So
weeks.
Penn State
3
is
weeks.
6.
Texas is 5, Penn State is 6.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Penn State will be at
there
home
you
as
go.
the number 6 seed.
So it's going to be Tennessee at Ohio State.
Right,
Definitely.
that's what I was
Notre
saying.
Dame
It's
like
just
four.
holding up. Here comes Penn State right now.
Okay.
Yeah, here comes Penn State. It's holding up like chalk to me going into today.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't let Alabama in.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
What a system.
Yes. Goofy system. Thanks to ESPN. I'll give them a one-finger salute as we leave. See you next week right back here.